This is the Relevant Podcast.
It's Friday, January 8th, 2021, and it's the Relevant Podcast. Here in Orlando, I'm your host, Cameron Strang, and before I introduce the cast, I just want to give you the context of when we recorded this episode. What you're about to hear was recorded this past Wednesday morning. Why is that important? The world changed Wednesday afternoon. Obviously, the national conversation, which we've been covering at length on our social media and at our site, the national conversation is different than the show you're about to hear. So if you want a break from all that news, enjoy today's episode of the Relevant Podcast. Joining me from Loverland, Virginia, it's Jesse Carey.
Hello, hello.
From Nashville, Tennessee, artist, producer, mogul, Derek Miner.
What up, though?
And joining us for the next two episodes, sitting in for Jamie Ivey, who is unavailable, our friend, author from California, Kristen Howerton. Hey, Kristen.
Hey, guys.
Before we get going, Kristen, I saw your byline in the New York Times last week. Did I not?
You did. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What? Tell everybody what you wrote about if they missed it.
Well, I wrote a piece. It was an opinion piece just about how I hate the mom that COVID has made me. And it was, really just about how, at this age, I have teenagers, and at this age, they should be out socializing and being with their friends. And I'm just having to be like a really, social executioner at this stage because of COVID. So, I'm following them around, making sure they're wearing masks. I'm not letting them hang with friends. And it feels like garbage for them and for me, which I think is a thing that a lot of parents can relate to right now. It's like none of us want to be this heavy handed, but, there's a pandemic. And of course, teenagers think they're invincible and that we're just being lame.
Do they get it, or does it cause friction in the family, or are they understanding?
Both. It's like, I think that they get it on a cognitive level, but when you're a teen, you can get something and then also feel like, but I also want to hang out with my friends. And it's hard because, no one's on the same page. We don't have great leadership on what we're all supposed to be doing. So they feel
Do tell. Can you get more into that, please?
Yeah, we, even in our community, and I know this is true everywhere, there are people that are fully quarantined, not leaving the house. And there are people who are living like there's no pandemic, and they feel like I'm the most strict, most concerned mom ever. I don't think that's true. I actually think, I will let them go outside and, but they're just, they feel like they're the only kids that are, quarantined and that everyone else is hanging out without them. And I feel for them in that.
You live in Southern California, where literally it's on national news. Your hospitals are at complete capacity to the level that your medical leaders are saying, even if you don't have COVID, if you have a heart attack, if you have a broken bone, you get in a car accident, we don't have anywhere to put you. COVID has overtaken the medical industry in Southern California. Your kids, you being like keeping them safe makes sense for a lot of reasons, not just COVID,
But, they're teenagers and they're like, yeah, that's a bummer, but also all my friends are at the skate park and I want to be there. I get it. I would have been the same way as a teenager. And I think they vacillate between empathy and understanding, and then but all my friends are hanging out and we're the only ones taking this seriously. And that's tough. That's tough as an adult. So I keep trying to tell them, guys, someday we're going to look back on this and we're going to know the full death count and how bad this was. And, you're going to be an adult and you're going to look back and say, well, we were on the right side of history. We did the right thing, versus looking back and going wow, my parents just let me have sleepovers that entire time. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I think the position you're in is a position, whether you have kids or teenagers or, everyone kind of has to be like that parent to someone in their life that's like, bro, I don't know if going to watch a football game at a sports bar is the most prudent decision right now. I don't want to have to tell that to my buds on a text thread, but it's like, I kind of feel some social responsibility to not be like, the lame dude, but also like, guys, can we just set up a Zoom thing and we'll watch it like that and talk trash over text? You know, like,
guys,
yeah.
I got young kids, and my youngest son would probably stab you with a Lego sword to go to Chuck E. Cheese right now. Like, it's just like every day. And I hate having to tell him, like, no, buddy, we can't do that. Or, you know, we have my nephew, he kind of has like some health issues, and they're used to hanging out with him a lot. And they're like, can we go over to our cousin's house? And I'm like, nah, buddy, they can't. You know what I mean? And that sucks. And like literally every night I pray and read the Bible with my kids, and every night their prayer is, please let COVID be over.
Same. Like, that's literally my son's prayer every night.
Every night.
But even with little kids, though, you know, you're talking, Kristen, about your older kids. Little kids, like my son's good friend, they see each other all the time. His good friend had COVID. That friend's mom has cancer and is in chemo, got COVID. And, you know, now all of a sudden we're having to go get tested and stuff, you know what I'm saying? But like the kids are transmitting it, and it's not about necessarily the kids. It's the vulnerable parents and grandparents that the kids aren't thinking about, you know?
I had a kid over here the other day and literally had the television remote in their mouth. Okay. They're like, even in non-pandemic times, I'd be pretty certain that's a good way to get some kind of illness. You know? It's something that people would just fiddle with their hand, and you pass it along. Oh, let me see the remote. Hey, I need to turn something on. Literally with it in their mouth, like it was a candy bar. It's like, okay, I think we've realized patient zero of the next pandemic. Now I worry about that now. So yeah, it is like a lot of risks we never had to think about. But hey, Kristen, good for you. What is the reaction been to the New York Times piece? Has people reach out and kind of related to the kind of inner tension you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I think the piece was really well received by a lot of parents, because I think we're all in the same boat. And I didn't write it from a standpoint of judgment. You know, I was really vulnerable. Like, hey, this is hard, and I change my standards. You know, I will start to feel guilty, and then I'll be like, okay, fine, you can go to the skate park, but leave a mask on. And then I'll, you know, watch what's happening in the news with our healthcare system and be like, okay, we're not leaving the house this week. And, you know, I don't have all the answers either. I mean, I'm going week by week. And, you know, a lot of it is like, how guilty do I feel, you know, in regards to the teenagers versus how socially responsible do I feel? And I think all of us are just navigating this the best we can with a lot of confusion and a lot of guilt.
Here, one thing I found that was really helpful is to entertain young children with other things during this time when they can't go out and play with their friends. I gave a kid who couldn't be more than 9 a can of beans and a can opener. I said, have fun. Have fun.
I've heard about this game. I've heard about this game.
What could go wrong? And I'm going to tweet about it. And so we'll see. I had a nice thread about it, and I hope that gets some attention this week as a fun alternative to go out and play with your friends. What could go wrong?
I think you're going to get a great reaction.
I think so too. I'm very hopeful about 2021. I think it's off to a great start.
Well, listen. If y'all are feeling stir crazy, just come visit us here in Florida, where it's like nothing's happening. You can go to a theme park. You can go to an Orlando Magic game. You can go to church. Do whatever you feel like here in Florida. It's the Wild West. Nobody cares, except for the 15,000 people who got positive yesterday. So
Tennessee as well. Tennessee is like, look, I don't even think they even send masks to Tennessee. They're not sending like, we're not even sending anything out.
See, that's
there.
Like, we've had schools closed for like months. You know, if you drive around at night, there's just not that many people even on the road. I drive by people with masks on, and they're in their car by themselves, you know? And I'm like, hey, you're zooming down the highway. Who knows what's going to fly who knows particles are going to fly through the ventilation?
Safety first.
So I told you my kid, close friend, contact tracing, we go to get a test the other day, and I'm taking him, who I think is a pretty good probability that kid with COVID, played with friend, played with you probably have it or something. I'm taking him to get tested, right? And I'm thinking to myself, as we're walking to the car, what am I supposed to do here? Like, if I don't have it, I'm going to get into a closed, tiny space with my son with So I wore a mask, drove with the windows down, and made him be like a dog with his head out the window as we drove to the test. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. What am I supposed to do? I don't want him breathing on me.
I have no judgment. I would do the same. I would have that kid sleep in the garage.
So I'm saying I had to transport him somehow. Yeah, we look.
Play.
Anyway. All right. Well, we have a great show in store for you today. This is awesome. Coming up later, we have the Chief Creative Officer of Pixar, the co-director of Disney's brand new movie Soul, Pete Docter, is joining us. You know, just a guy who's changing the world. He was the guy behind Up. He was the guy behind Inside Out.
Man. Okay.
And now Soul. So, you know, the heavy hitters starting 2021 right. We also have some news. We're going to be evolving the Friday show a little bit. So as you've known through 2020, we introduced relevant news and then we had a guest and that was it. 2021, we're shaking things up. We are still going to have Tyler on to bring relevant news, but it's just going to be one item each week. We're just getting to the cream of the crop. With relevant news. We're also introducing a new segment, Relevant Recommends. Each week, each Friday, we're going to be picking a movie, an album, a book, a TV show that we're excited about. We're also kicking off a new Relevant Recommends column every Friday at relevantmagazine.com, which will have kind of what we're into this week. So that is going to come up later in the show. We have our wellness segment. It's New Year's resolutions. It's January. It's a perfect time for this content. Our very own Tyler Huckabee talks to Lecrae about exercise and staying healthy during quarantine. It is brought to you by our friends at UHSM. Don't miss it. It's a great one. And then y'all have been asking for something like this. We're finally doing it. At the end of the show, it's a debut edition of our new segment, What's Jesse Thinking? Jesse, You want to tell everybody what this is about?
Yeah, and so Cameron and I talked about it earlier this week, and we there's a lot of things that I'm interested in that just don't have they're not particularly newsworthy, so it's kind of hard to bring up in slices. And if there's not some hook into everyday life where we could just bring it up and kind of chit chat banter, right? It just sits in the recesses of my mind. And bring it up to friends who I just accost friends with, hey, do you hear about this weird internet rabbit hole things? When I can't sleep, which is frequently these days, I'm going down Wikipedia rabbit holes. I love them. I love interesting stuff that a lot of people, if they knew about, they would be obsessed with, right? Like there's so much cool stuff out there, but because of, all the Bean Dad stories and, filibusters or whatever, we occupy our minds with other things. This segment is a way to push out some of those stressful things with super, super interesting stuff that you probably don't know about. And I don't want to build it up too much, but I'm really excited about the first one. Hopefully it sets the tone. Hopefully you guys dig it. And
love it.
Up later.
That'll be on every Friday show from now on. All right, well, stay tuned. Coming up next, it's Relevant News.
I was on fire for you. Where did you go? I could have died for you. How could you not know? I was alive with you. You brought in home.
You're listening to Cannons. The song is Fire for You. Okay, please welcome to the show Relevant Senior Editor Tyler Huckabee for this week's edition of
Relevant News.
Hey, Tyler.
Hey, everybody.
What's going on this week?
Well, we're recording this on Wednesday, and there's what everybody's talking about today on the timeline is what happened on Tuesday night in Georgia, where the Democrats clinched both of their runoff elections and are poised to take control of the Senate here in a couple of weeks. Right now, Reverend Raphael Warnock is confirmed he's projected to win, and it's looks like Ossoff is going to win as well. So I want to talk about Warnock a little bit because he really falls into the relevant lane in some interesting ways. We've talked about him before a little bit, particularly regarding his opponent's, we'll say, racist attacks on his character and things that he stands for. But this is also going to be, he told CNN here Wednesday morning that he plans to continue to be preaching at his church on Sunday mornings. He's going to be pulling double duty as a state senator and as a pastor. He tends to be. He's the pastor at Ebenezer Church. It's a historically extremely important church in Georgia. It's the church where Martin Luther King Jr. was the pastor. I just came across, he was on Morning Joe this morning, and they asked him about how being a pastor will inform his approach to uniting people in a divided time. And he said, listen, if you've ever had to get folks who like anthems and folks who like contemporary gospel music to work together, you can do anything. And that's very emblematic of his approach. He's extremely open and very vocal about his work in the church and how much that informs his political beliefs. He's very much in the vein of Dr. King. He's a big proponent of expanding voting rights, expanding Medicaid, fighting poverty. He opposes the death penalty. He said, he was on CNN, and he said, the last thing I want to do is become disconnected from the community and just spend all of my time talking to politicians. I might accidentally become one. That's why I intend to return to the pulpit and preach on Sunday mornings. So this is going to be new. He's poised to become probably the most prominent and visible figure in the Black church on the political stage right now. And that's going to be very different and probably kind of revolutionary for the body politic here in the U.S.
I heard that John Lewis was a parishioner of
that's right
of his church, and John Lewis, who passed away, recently, obviously, was known as the conscience of the Senate, and I'm wondering if he's going to step into that role, like kind of be that spiritual voice in the halls of power.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. This is the most Black pastor thing in the world.
What do you mean?
Look,
unpack that.
We got a pastor here in Nashville. He has 5 churches, 5 locations. I think it's 5. Yeah, and he preaches. No, he does 5 services. He preaches all 5 of them at 3 different locations. Pastor Joseph Walker.
Just drives around. Yep.
Yeah. Joseph Walker is like, when you like someone like Warnock, who like when you look at what he's accomplished, like the level of being driven, like I knew Warnock was not gonna not preach, because that's his passion. It would seem that preaching is his passion. Being with the people is what led him to politics, not the other way around. Like, okay, preaching was a stepping stone. Now I'm in politics. Now I let preaching go. It seemed like the opposite. With like he's passionate about that. So I never met him, but that's what it seems. But I was like, yo, this is Black pastor, baby. That's what we do. We get stuff done.
It seems like preaching, that's like a good skill to keep sharp, especially if you're a politician, because Tyler, you could probably relate to this too. I've interviewed over the years thousands of different people, right? Mm-hmm. But consistently, when you talk to a lot of pastors, they're very articulate. The interviews are really clean transcriptions, which is something only a nerd editor would care about. Like, there's a sentence that works standalone perfectly, because I feel like preaching forces you, and I'm not a preacher, but I can only imagine that prepping and actually executing sermons forces you to constantly refine how you communicate and get big points across and are relatable and are funny. So I think, someone who is a preacher and who will continue to preach as a politician, just by virtue of someone who has mastered that type of communication, I feel like can be a real asset, personally.
Oh, yeah.
And here's the thing. In a Black church, like not just doing those things, but because one thing I can tell you about Black people is we're going to let you know how we feel. Like, that's what it is. So if he, like, we're not going to be like, oh, that was kind of off. Some grandmama in a big old hat, big old white hat is going to pull you over and say, I don't think that was it, So the fact that he's been able to preach at a historic church like that for as long as he's done and make this there's no way. It's an excellent. He's a brilliant man. Like, you have to give that to him, and I'm excited to see what he does. I hope that things work out great for him.
And you can even kind of see that in how he's responded to a lot of the criticisms that he's received, particularly from his opponent. There's this sort of political way of bouncing back against political attacks, which is where you do I understand the concerns of my opponent. I know, and the American people know, and we're kind of like, yada, yada. And he has a very different, very forceful, I would say very, a lot of conviction in how he comes back and just tells them to shut up. Not in so many words, but closer to shut up than most most politicians are going to go.
Well, the other thing too is like, at least pastors are, to your point, Derek, are willing to address criticism straightforward. Because when I watch an interview with a politician and they just act like the person asked them a question that is completely unrelated to what was actually asked, and they just start talking about something different. Like if I were to say to Tyler, hey, I want you to unpack your thoughts about the Green New Deal, and you just launched into a thing about, the COVID vaccine or whatever, like that's just common practice right now. Let's just ignore what
it's so infuriating. Yeah.
But it happens all the time. Well, with a pastor, to Derek's point, they got to deal with this every Sunday. They know how to address the concerns of someone talking to them without dancing around, because this is part of what I would presume is a pretty big part of the job, is have to answer critics in a way that's going to satisfy them enough that they'll keep coming to your church.
Listen, and if you, I tell you what, if I had a choice between answering somebody about the Green New Deal or answering Deacon Jones about what you gonna do about that trash in the back of the church, give me the Green New Deal every day. But Deacon Jones is not gonna pull no punches. You know what I mean? Green New Deal, you can kind of connive and move out of that, but Deacon Jones, he ain't playing with you. And Sister Ethel is not gonna be playing about what you gonna do about Mother's Day. Like I'm telling you, like if handling black church is, you can handle politics if you can handle black church. I'm not worried about that.
Look, that pipe organ ain't fixing itself. So what you got, Pastor? So you dodge this one.
Exactly. I wonder, I love what he's saying though about staying rooted, like with the community and not, and it's like almost not being in the echo chamber and changing his perspective. I mean, that's brilliant. It's almost like intentional humility. I mean, some of them, maybe more leaders need to embrace like bivocational politics, bivocational church leadership. Like maybe like have one foot in the leadership space and one foot in the space that'll keep you grounded to what's happening out there,
I've had an idea for a reality series, sort of like Undercover Billionaire or like Undercover Boss or whatever, where they send in like the CEO of some big corporation to like work at the cash register with like a fake mustache on to learn what it's like to, like, they should send pastors out. Like I'm talking big mega church pastors. I want to see Andy Stanley work in a mechanic's garage for a week and see if his perspective on, kind of reaching the everyman or every woman is changed, because I feel like there's a lot, and I'm not picking on Andy Stanley, it's just because he's a big name. He actually seems like a reasonably down-to-earth guy. But I think, to your point, Cameron, I think having your foot in two worlds, especially for people that are in ministry, because from what I've observed, and I think this is, contributes to accountability problems that we've seen unfold repeatedly, is that the bigger and more influential pastors or leaders get, the more isolated they are from the people that are, listening to their teachings.
And they're surrounded by yes men. And that's that's dangerous too. Everybody in your orbit is on your payroll.
And so put them in another vocation, or it doesn't have to be a gimmick like Undercover Boss, but actually have them like, hey, maybe it's not a bad idea for a pastor to have a part-time job waiting tables to see what it's like. Like it's real easy to do a sermon about serving people when they treat you poorly. How about actually serving people when they treat you poorly and see if it shapes your teaching on it a little,
Yeah. I like it.
Maybe instead it just follows Joel Houston as he takes on every single possible role in Hillside Church, and he's disguised. He's disguised, but it's like clearly Joel. Like everybody just kind of like, this is his thing. Just it's for a TV show. Just pretend you don't recognize him.
Episode 1 on premiering TBN on Sunday mornings after church. The first episode is Joel Osteen gets a job as like a dental hygienist for obvious reasons. I mean, it's a very
right
would not be like,
for the discount. He's doing it for the discount. He wants the
This guy knows the field. It's not gonna raise any red flags. But just have him down there in the trenches, film it for a couple of weeks, see what we get.
Yeah, I'd watch it. That'd be good.
I would
All right.
watch that.
Well, look at that. Look at the shorter, the all new, refreshed, relevant news. For more stuff like that, we're covering it every day over at relevantmagazine.com. Follow us on the socials. Check out the site. Tyler's got his finger on the pulse of what's happening at the intersection of faith and culture. Thanks, Tyler.
Hey, thanks, everybody.
Oh, and the listeners will hear you later in the show with this week's Relevant Recommends, huh?
Stay tuned.
All right, there you go. Okay, stay tuned. Up next, Pete Docter joins us. You're listening to Gorillaz. The song is The Lost Chord, featuring Lee John. Well, today's episode is brought to you by podcast creation platform Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor yet, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. First of all, it's free. There are custom tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will then distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and every major platform. The cool thing is you can also make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Well, Pete Docter is the co-director of Soul and the chief creative officer at Pixar. The Oscar-winning director was the man behind Pixar classics like Monsters, Inc., Up, and Inside Out. We sat down with him and Soul producer Dana Murray recently to talk about the film and the steps Pixar uses to create unforgettable movies. Here's our conversation with Pete Docter and Dana Murray.
These are so missing. Is this heaven?
No.
Is it H-E double hockey sticks?
Hell? Quiet coyotes. No, it's the great before. This is where new souls get their personalities, quirks, and interests before they go to Earth. Here we are.
Wait!
Don't worry, you can't crush a soul here. That's what life on Earth is for.
The afterlife was especially like danger. You know, there's a lot of pitfalls and things that we could have stuck our foot in by accident. We did start the whole process. I think was one of the first things we did was talking to a lot of different religious consultants, pastors, theologians, rabbis. We had a couple of people from like shaman even who came in, and just we tried to understand from every angle how people across time have understood the soul and what does it look like? Are there any clues to us in terms of the design that we can use? And we actually ended up staying away from the afterlife. There's of course the sort of cliche of like going towards the bright light that we did. And I don't, Dana, do you remember there was an early script where I actually wrote in the voice of God? Which
we were like, probably not a good idea, Pete.
Well, I was thinking like, okay, if we're talking about why live, why am I here? Why am I not getting what I want? It's sort of a Job-like story. And I thought, oh, it'd be fun to have never refer to him or her. And in fact, every line, I thought this was horribly clever, that every line would be spoken by someone else. So it would be a woman, it'd be a kid, it would be all ethnicities and races. And yeah, that was one of the first things to like cut that. And probably good because, the characters like us have to figure things out themselves as opposed to be told.
We took it on as a huge responsibility to, portray Joe and the rest of the cast, truthful and authentic. And I think that 22 walking in Joe's shoes is like really special because we got to go into these Black spaces like the barber shop, the tailor shop with Joe's mom. And I think Joe is a universal. He's going through something that's very universal and something I think all of us, if we haven't felt in our life, probably will at some point. And so I think he's a character that so many people can connect to. And culturally, we wanted to make the Black community proud. So we brought on a lot of help. We had a ton of consultants and a culture trust and our co-director and writer, Kemp Powers, who wish he could be here, is a sick puppy right now. But they were all these voices were such a huge part in making these characters who they were. And so it's very important to us to portray them in a truthful way.
Yeah, in fact, I think our initial concern was about religion. The longer term concern, the bigger one, became more about race and representing culture. because there are a lot of pitfalls and, you know, things that we didn't even know we didn't know.
Look, I remember one time my dad took me to this jazz club, and that's the last place I wanted to be. But then I see this guy, and he's playing these chords with force on it. And then with a minor, I was, whoa, whoa, whoa. Then he has the inner voices, and it's like he's singing. And I swear the next thing I know, it's like he floats off the stage.
Bad or good, we didn't set out to make this the first African-American character. It was really out of the decision that this guy who kind of reflects the artist's journey should be a jazz musician. You know, and one of our consultants said, oh, jazz, you could more accurately call black improvisational music, right? It grew out of the African-American culture. And we thought, well, it's only right then to have our main character reflect that. And as soon as we made that decision, I don't think I knew how little I didn't know. Or is that the right way of saying it? Anyway, there was a lot that we needed help with. And Kemp Powers, as Dana mentioned, was formative in bringing a lot of those details. But we also had extensive cultural consultants as well. People talking just about the Black experience, people talking about music. And we got to meet and work with Herbie Hancock and Quincy Jones and, you know, these living legends, which was just fascinating and mind-blowing. But it was a huge responsibility that we knew that we wanted to portray this life of this man as accurately as we could, not just because it's the right thing to do, but because the movie gets better. You know, when you talk about those things in an accurate, specific way, strangely, I think it becomes more universal the more specific it is. We had a lot of the benefit of a lot of really great people that helped us, and it was a great learning experience. The thing I am more realizing lately that, you know, when I started in animation, it was all about the joy that I got out of it. And now I realize that one of the great joys of it is the ability for Dana and I and the rest of our crew to connect with people we will never meet in parts of the world we will never go. You know, through the work that we do, we have this amazing ability to connect people, as well as I think animation has a wonderful ability, I guess filmmaking and storytelling in general, to allow the viewers to step into somebody else's shoes and experience life from a perspective that they have not been in themselves. So those are I think most important things for me is just representing the world as it sort of seems to me and that I'm struggling with, in hopes that you will see yourself in there as well.
Yeah, sometimes we don't even know that. Like, I remember after Inside Out, getting letters and stories from people like psycholigists who are working with traumatized children, and the only way these children could express themselves is by using the dolls or the stuffies, like the characters of all the emotions. And that was kind of like crazy to hear, because you don't know how these are going to impact people until really afterwards. Like, while you're making them, you're just so focused and busy doing it that it's not till later sometimes that you can take it in.
I think there is oftentimes a narrative of like, just find what you love and do it, and you'll never work a day in your life, and that'll lead to happiness and fulfillment. And you're like, yeah, no, it doesn't work like that. There are times of intense joy, of course, and fulfillment, but it's not the answer to everything. And so I think it was really exciting as a storyteller, because I think everybody believes so strongly in that narrative that when we don't give Joe the happiness and fulfillment that he was expecting, it's kind of shocking to people. And in fact, I don't know that we really ever pulled this off, Dana, but the hope was that the word spark would be reversed in a way that at the beginning, Joe assumes, like hopefully the audience, that spark is the thing you love that is your passion, music or science or, whatever, those specific things. But in the end, spark really means life. That your job is not to just do this one thing, but your job is to live, in all the complexity and nuance that entails. Beyond Christianity, I think a major goal of any faith is to try to bring sense for people in their lives. The idea of how do I know what I'm supposed to do? Am I making the right decisions? All those things are complicated, and it's super helpful to have help along the way. I think the message of the film is, I actually feel like it's maybe more of a philosophical film than a theological one. We start with essentialism, the idea that I was born to do this, it's sort of straight out of Aristotle or Plato. And then we get to counter with, to me, the humor of 22 is her nihilism, the sort of ultimate meaninglessness of it all. And I think where we come to in the end is existentialism, like a Soren Kierkegaard kind of thing of, hey, it's not just meant to be localized over here and then the rest of my life happens. All of life is spiritual. Everything you do contributes to who you are as a person and to the overall meaning of your life. And I know I still struggle with that daily, but I feel like having the chance to work on this film was a great reminder daily again how I can be bringing my full self into everything and being more present.
That was Pete Docter and Dana Murray. Stay tuned. Up next, it's our wellness conversation with Lecrae.
I don't know what to talk about. How has my head just hollowed out? Thoughts used to orbit all around. On Venus we could find peace around. I don't know what you wanna talk about. I'm too precautious and I often doubt. How can I be the boy you dream about?
You're listening to Jelani Aria. The song is Stella Brown. Well, it's time for actually the final edition of our weekly wellness segment. We talk to a hip-hop artist, producer, label owner, thinker, leader, Lecrae. We actually talked to him about quarantine and what it's done to so many of us, that how it's been challenging to stay healthy and exercise. And we thought new year, the light being at the end of the tunnel with the vaccine and quarantine, people are trying to kind of shake off the COVID. So we talked to him about his routine and his approach to exercise and staying healthy, especially during these unusual times. It's the final installment of our weekly wellness series, which is brought to you by UHSM, member-to-member health sharing. See why millions are choosing this Christian alternative to traditional insurance. Ask if you qualify for UHSM membership today by calling or texting 833-367-8476 or 833-367-UHSM or visiting uhsm.com/care. Here's our conversation with Lecrae.
Okay, so Lecrae, one thing that I appreciate about your work and about restoration actually is how open you've been about some of your struggles with mental health and emotional health. And I was wondering if you could just give us a peek into how do you manage that? What do you have any advice for people who are struggling with that as well right now?
If you're a Christian, you know, God has provided means for healing and restoration. And so it can be supernatural. It can be a prayer and wow, look at this, everything's different. But oftentimes, you know, he's present in science. He's present in us, you know, taking the time to read books by doctors, you know, who can walk us down some healthy paths. And so what I would say for people is I'm a big advocate of meditation, which is not like some kind of, you know, weird mystical thing, but it's clearing your mind of the clutter that is overwhelming you, whether those are anxious thoughts or sad thoughts. It's just taking the time to clear your mind. And it could be spiritual. It could be a time where you're reflecting on how close God is to you, but mostly it's clearing your mind of the clutter. And then I'm also a fan of mediation, which is therapy. It's sitting with someone, you know, even in this time where you can do telemedicine. And I was just on a call, you know, I do once a month check-ins with my therapist and just seeing how everything is going and how you're processing, because they can give you insight and wisdom. And then finally, medication. If you were diabetic, you wouldn't say, I can't take insulin. God doesn't want me to do that. God has provided a means for you to be healthy through insulin. And same way with medication. You may need medication, and that's the way he's providing wholeness and healing for your mind. But just simply, practically, I would say, make sure you're working out. It releases the endorphins, even if it's just some push-ups. We do something. It's helpful for your mind. Also, try to eat as healthy as you possibly can. You know, avoid a lot of extra carbs and sugar. It's good for your mind. And then lastly, I would say, you know, focus on things that bring about encouragement and freedom and life and are life-giving, instead of focusing on the negatives consistently.
It's interesting how often you still hear this idea that it can just, these are things that it can just be sort of like prayed away, you know, that it's purely something for the spiritual realm.
I think we bought into a false ideology there, and that's unfortunate. But I mean, nobody would ever say, man, I need to lose some weight, but just pray about it. Nobody would. That's not acceptable. And so the mind is a part of the body, and the brain is a part of the body, and it's physical. And so I think we often think of our mind as mostly spiritual, but it is physical. The mind follows the brain, and if you don't take care of the brain, then the mind will wander. If you don't give the brain enough sleep, the mind gets chaotic. And so you have to take care of it practically, physically. We are spiritual beings, so you do that as well, but you got to do the practical, physical things.
That was Lecrae to wrap up our wellness series. Thank you to our friends at UHSM. Go check them out, uhsm.com/care. Stay tuned. Up next, it's Relevant Recommends and the debut of What's Jesse Thinking.
All right, welcome to the debut Relevant Recommends segment, where I'll be recommending a book or a movie or a TV show or maybe even a video game that we think relevant readers will be interested in, the Relevant podcast family will be interested in. And this week I'm going to be recommending Jamar Tisby's How to Fight Racism. So something that comes up a lot when you read books about anti-racism is that now what question, right? Like the arguments are really persuasive and the writing is good and the challenge is really clear, but you're still left wondering, so what can I actually do about it? And that's where Jemar Tisby's new book comes in. It's called How to Fight Racism, Courageous Christianity and the Journey Towards Racial Justice. Now, Tisby's last really good book was called The Color of Compromise, and it was sort of a historical overview of the ties between systemic racism and the American church. This book is more of a field guide for the here and now. It describes itself as and this is a quote here, a handbook for pursuing racial justice with hands-on suggestions and real-world examples of change. It's really a book for people who've already taken a few steps down that racial identity journey, right? This is less about convincing people that there is an issue and more about next steps and how to take the fight for racial justice beyond conversation and into meaningful action. It's got good material on questions about how to talk to racism skeptics, the people who just don't buy into the idea of systemic racism. In order for those conversations to be productive, Tisby really invites us to get more bold instead of less and help recruit others to disrupt racism that we've sort of learned to accept as normal. The book goes beyond individual advice too. It helps us get a better idea of how to organize in our communities, especially with local churches, to create larger, more sustainable movements that can enact change at the systemic level. I think Jemar is a really terrific communicator. He's a great writer. He intertwines moral conviction. He has this just an encyclopedic knowledge of American history that really informs a lot of his ideas here. And he has spiritual authority too. And this creates really an early contender for one of the most vital nonfiction reads of 2021, particularly for Christians who are concerned about this very, very important fight. And I highly recommend it. It's Jemar Tisby's How to Fight Racism, Courageous Christianity and the Journey Towards Racial Justice. So that's this week Relevant Recommends. You can read more about this and everything else we're covering today over at the homepage at relevantmagazine.com.
You're listening to SZA. The song is Good Days. Okay, it's time for the debut of...
What's Jesse thinking?
Oh.
Oh, that's fire.
Very inquisitive.
Okay, I like
Wow.
that jingle.
Play it again. Do it again. I want to hear it again.
Run that bike.
What's Jesse thinking?
Oh.
Who is the girl?
Gabs, who works on staff here at Relevant.
Gabs, I love her voice.
Very well done.
There you
What's
go.
up?
Very well.
All right, Jesse, what are you thinking this week?
Okay, I want to tell you, I've been thinking about like dream job scenario. Like if you could do anything, Kristen, if you could do anything in the world as a profession, right? What would it be?
Ooh, I feel like maybe doing recaps of The Bachelor.
That's a great job.
I'm going to dream big.
That's not what I would.
You can start a blog and just do that.
Say, that one feels reasonably attainable.
I did that for a while. It was just really fun. Like I want a job where there's no actual crisis ever. Like if I completely fell down on the job and failed, it wouldn't have any relevance for anything. That's what I want.
I'm glad you brought that up because my dream job involves the highest stakes possible. And it's a high stake archaeological adventurer. And I have the perfect mission picked out for my first job. It's to find the Holy Grail. And guys, I have a rabbit hole that goes so deep and is so interesting. No. I'm going to give you a couple things that this involves. Okay. Monks that have taken a vow never to leave the actual site of a church and are also trained as ninjas. That's interesting thing number one. Two, an island in an inland ocean in Ethiopia where there are a group of monks who haven't seen women in decades and not even women are permitted to get within a radius of this island because of the philosophy of these monks. Also, the true location of the Holy Grail and the original 10 Commandments. Are you guys in on this?
Yes.
Okay. So
sounds like a show I'd watch on Netflix.
Thank you. And obviously my adventure to uncover the real truth and probably fight a monk in hand-to-hand combat will be at the center of this show as part of my new high-stakes job. So in Ethiopia, Ethiopia has long had a really thriving Jewish population. I don't know if you guys got to see the movie it was the Chris Evans movies that was out on Netflix earlier. I think it was earlier earlier this past year called Red Sea Diving Resort. And the plot of the film is he is a Mossad agent that has to figure out how to get this Jewish population out of Ethiopia and actually get them to the Holy Land because they're facing just crazy persecution in Ethiopia. It's a really fascinating story, but I went after watching that movie a few months ago, I went down the rabbit hole to kind of learn the history of why Ethiopia has this giant Jewish population of Ethiopians. What's kind of the history of that? But as I was going down that rabbit hole, I found that one of the prevailing theories about the actual location of the real Holy Grail and the Ten Commandments is in a secret church in Ethiopia. Derek, you're nodding your head. Do you know this story?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first convert was Ethiopian convert in the Bible, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. So, dating back to the times of Jesus, actually dating back to the time of Solomon is where this story actually has its roots. So according to kind of the historical lore, the Queen of Sheba went to go visit King Solomon and to kind of glean his wisdom. While she was there, kind of read between the lines here, became pregnant with their son. The Queen of Sheba and Solomon, according to kind of the legend, had a son who went back to Ethiopia and kind of established this kind of Jewish roots in the country. Now, during the Babylonian takeover of the Temple of Solomon back in like the 400 BC, the Ark of the Covenant, where it was stored, was stolen, and no one knows where it's been since. Now, the son of this Jewish population in Ethiopia took it upon themselves to not only recover the Holy Grail, which in it contained the actual first copy of the Ten Commandments. They took it upon themselves to say, our job is to hide this and keep it safe forever.
Wait, the Holy Grail or the Ark of the Covenant?
I'm sorry, the Ark of the Covenant with inside is the other stuff. So they took it upon themselves to be able to be the protectors of this for generations. So they first took it to an island, which is in the middle of a giant lake called Lake Tanya, which is they call it a lake, but it's actually like an inland ocean. It is a massive body. Think Great Lakes style with an island right in the middle of it. Now,
so is this legend or is this like fact that this is where they took it originally?
Legend.
Yeah,
legend.
This is all legend. I mean, it's so long ago. Most of it's been passed down through oral tradition to these monks who still live on this island. Right now, there are a group of 125 monks. It's always at 125, and it's all male. And there was actually a reporter from National Geographic that went to visit this island on an investigation into the story. And as the boat was approaching, like one of the kind of guardians of the island had to go out to the boat to make sure that and this is, obviously sort of problematic, but there were no women on the boat because the men there have vowed celibacy and made it their sole mission to kind of preserve these monasteries, which not only they say once hid the Ark of the Covenant, but they also say that when Joseph and Mary were fleeing persecution from Herod, where they ended up hiding out for a period of time was on this island in the middle of this ocean in Ethiopia, which historically actually makes sense because their community had roots to that community there. And if you're looking to hide out, what better place than an island in the middle of a lake in the middle of Ethiopia? I don't think anyone was looking there at the time. So it has the roots back to the story of Jesus. But they said once people kind of got wise to this island, they still wanted to preserve the monasteries there because, according to legend, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph actually stayed on this island. So they wanted to preserve the spot. But they have been moving the Ark of the Covenant, and they moved it to a small church. Now, here's what's so interesting about this church. The church hasn't appointed a guardian monk. Okay, and this is I'm going to read from an article. The guardian monk is appointed for life by his predecessor before the predecessor dies. If the incumbent guardian dies without naming a successor, the monks of the monastery hold an election for the new guard. If you're elected the new guard, you are confined to the chapel for the rest of your life and can never leave, and you're the only person on earth who can actually look at the Ark of the Covenant. But the
Indiana Jones kind of, had an old guardian guy, and Indiana Jones kind of got this right.
They might have ripped that off. You know, like
for real.
Indiana Jones might have been inspired by that story.
But when I was reading like the real story, I'm like, dude, how has there not been more movies about this? Because the real story is more interesting than the Indiana Jones one. You know,
and you explode if you look at it.
Right. Right. Your face will melt. Yeah.
It's a pretty grisly, horrible death. You basically slowly turn to dust and terrify everyone. Here's what I love about this. According to the National Geographic story, it is said that these guardians have been trained to kill with their bare hands. Guys, this story has it all. This rabbit hole has adventures in Ethiopia, secret islands, ninja monks, the Ark of the Covenant. Guys, no one knows about the story. No one cares about it. But is this not the most interesting story possibly in the world right now?
I feel like you're Stefan telling us about the best new club in New York right now.
Yeah.
That's islands. It has hand-to-hand combat.
This is the best.
It's got ninjas, Ark of the Covenant, monks. Yeah.
How are people not more talking about this? Like,
so hold on. What of this is actual fact? We know these monks exist. We know there's a monastery. Is it fact that they're trained in ninja arts?
It is fact, according to National Geographic. It is fact they're trained.
An observable fact. Okay, so that's what we know. All the other stuff is what we assume.
Well, we also know that the Christian and Jewish populations of Ethiopia date back centuries and centuries and centuries. And to Derek's point, is one of the first Christian communities. And there was an article in the Smithsonian magazine that talked to some scholars that have worked with this community for a long time. They said, we've had thousands of years of Judaism followed by 2,000 years of Christianity. And that's why our religion is rooted in the Old Testament. We follow the same dietary laws as Judaism, as set out in Leviticus. Though the parents would still, kind of circumcise parents. It is this unique hybrid religious community that combines Old Testament Judaism with modern teachings about Christianity. Everything about it is fascinating, from like the historical lore to this hybrid kind of Christian Jewish community that's been there for thousands of years, to a church guarded by ninja monks that might actually hold the Ark of the Covenant and the original 10 Commandments. Super, super interesting, weird rabbit hole. But now, Kristen, me explaining this, does this not make you want to forgo the Bachelor recapping and be like an adventurer?
What outfits would I wear?
Good question.
I need to see wardrobe first before I can commit.
Easy. Cargo shorts.
Linen?
Cool.
Are they linen? I'm feeling a linen vibe.
I was thinking the linen shirt. I think the shorts is pretty. The locked in deal's thick khaki cargo. That's just the adventurer swag.
Okay, I'm gonna pass because I don't look good in cargo shorts. It's not a good look for me.
I feel like one of the things required for archaeological adventures is cargo shorts, and I
agree with you, but it's not the right look for me. So
that's
I'm out. I'm sorry.
It's like Shark Tank.
Yeah. I'm out. This adventure is going to be a no for me, dog. Yeah. Fair enough. But this is something I've been thinking about, guys. It's something I actually think about a lot. And I figured...
Does the island accept visitors if you're male? I mean, can you visit the monastery?
You can. I think you have to make some arrangements beforehand, but I'm pretty sure they accept tourism, because some of the monasteries there have, real historical interest, considering a lot of people think that Jesus, Mary, and Joseph actually stayed there at one point. So you can actually visit it. Yeah.
I want you to visit it. Wow. I want you to go and report back.
That's what I want to do too. I just need someone to underwrite this trip for me. This is where I'm all getting at with the job intro. I'm challenging listeners out there right now.
Yeah.
I feel like I bring a lot of value. Like, if there's any TV producers, I gave you a great idea with Undercover Mega Pastor. The least you can do is send me on a film crew to go check out this island and fight one of these ninjas. Okay.
All you need to do
is fight one of the ninjas. That'd be a bad idea.
You need to befriend the ninja and somehow trick the ninja. You ain't gonna fight the ninja.
Okay, but here's the thing. Could you imagine being that poor guardian? Like, hey, listen, got great news. You've got chosen. And you're like, oh, great. Just what I wanted, to sit inside a church every day forever. Like, that's the whole job. It's just to hang out there,
Jesse, I feel like if you went and painted a wall and did a VBS, you could call it a mission trip, and then you could raise support for your trip. out there.
That's a great idea.
Send out letters.
Yeah, I'll do like a quick human video just to kind of check the boxes, and then find a school, paint up an old fence or a door, and I'll just send letters to all my parents' friends and see if they can get me out on the road.
It works.
I like it.
I've heard.
It's taking shape.
So is there any place our listeners can go to explore this story for themselves?
Yes, I would suggest that the Daily Beast has run an interesting article, so is the Atlantic, but my two favorites are one called The Keepers of the Lost Ark, which ran in Smithsonian Magazine, and In Search of the Real Queen of Sheba, legends and rumors trailed the elusive Queen Sheba through the rock-hewn wonders and rugged hills of Ethiopia. That ran in National Geographic and has a lot of information about that too. So,
interesting.
Really interesting story. And if you want to distract yourself from the chaos of the world, it's really kind of fun to read about.
There's a pretty good start to.
What's Jesse thinking?
Oh,
I love it.
A lot more where that's coming from each week, I guarantee you. Many thanks to Pete Docter for joining us. Go check out Soul. It's available right now on Disney Plus. And we have a long feature with Pete and Pixar in the new issue of Relevant, which debuted this week. You can go check it out at relevantmagazine.com. We have a cover story with Pharrell. We have this story with Pete Docter and a lot of other great content. Go check it out right now. It's available for free at relevantmagazine.com. On that note, we'll wrap things up. I'm Cameron Strang.
I'm Jesse Carey.
I'm Derek Miner.
I'm Kristen Howerton.
And we will see you all on Tuesday. Kristen will be joining us one more time. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the Relevant Podcast. Check out our features, interviews, and news updates every day at relevantmagazine.com. And make sure to follow Relevant on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest. For more great podcasts, browse the shows on the Relevant Podcast Network, which you can find at our site. And while you're there, don't miss the all-new era of Relevant Magazine. A new issue releases every other month at relevantmagazine.com.
This adventure is going to be a no for me, dog.
Relevant Podcast Network.